What if everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle's pregnancy was a lie? Not exaggerated, not dramatized, not speculated. A lie, deliberate, constructed, engineered. Because behind the smiles, the perfectly curated Instagram posts, and the glowing People magazine spreads, something didn't quite add up. And someone finally noticed. Someone who had been there, behind the locked doors of Frogmore Cottage and Montecito's guarded halls. Someone who saw the woman behind the performance. Someone who helped Meghan Markle through what should have been the most natural, life-giving experience a woman could have, only to discover it was all just smoke and mirrors. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And now, she's speaking out. She was there during the late-night phone calls. She was there during the panic attacks and whispered orders. She was there when Meghan said something no new mother ever should. But before we get to her, before we unpack the truth she's finally ready to reveal, we need to understand the stage. The deception didn't begin in a delivery room. It began much earlier, with a dress, a camera, and a baby bump that didn't behave like it should have. Let me take you back. The baby bump that moved and the internet that froze. It started subtly. Almost no one caught it in real time. But all it took was a 3-second clip from a royal tour, Meghan crouching down to greet a child, and suddenly, her baby bump seemed to collapse. Not contract, collapse, like air leaving a balloon. The video went viral. Forums lit up. Conspiracy threads multiplied. Of course, mainstream outlets rushed to defend her. Angles, they shouted. Fabric folding, they insisted. Don't be absurd. But the image had already been burned into millions of retinas. A pregnant belly that moved sideways. Now, for most people, it was a curiosity, an oddity. But for one woman, it was something else entirely. It was confirmation. The nurse with no name. Her name remains redacted for legal reasons. She signed one of the tightest NDAs in Hollywood history, crafted not by just any lawyer, but by Meghan and Harry's personal legal pit bulls. The type of contract that threatens your entire livelihood if you so much as breathe in the wrong direction. But something happened recently that changed everything. You see, when you're a private nurse, especially the kind that services ultra-wealthy clients, you're trained in silence. You're taught to compartmentalize, to obey, to protect reputations. That's the job. No questions, no judgments, just discretion. But what happens when the truth you're protecting isn't just about vanity or insecurity, but about a child's identity, royal legitimacy, and potentially a constitutional lie? What happens when a nation is misled? What happens when you realize you were part of the lie? The slippery slope of secrecy. Let's rewind the clock. Back to 2020. Meghan and Harry were freshly removed from royal duties. Their new life in California was beginning. Press deals, Netflix contracts, brand partnerships. But one thing hovered above it all. Lilibet Diana, the second child, the daughter named after the Queen herself. The baby born in private, far from the cameras, announced only after the fact, wrapped in a neat PR bow. Unlike Archie's birth, which at least involved a press notice and a semi-acknowledged hospital visit, Lilibet's arrival was wrapped in layers of mystery. No photo leaving the hospital, no smiling doctors, no time-stamped delivery confirmation, not even a clear location. Private, they said. But what does private really mean when you're talking about a woman married to the fifth in line to the British throne? What does private mean when that child might someday carry royal titles? The nurse's first warning sign. She recalls the very first day Meghan called her, months before the supposed due date. The Duchess had a list, not of vitamins or baby monitors, not even of OBGYNs. She had a list of optics. How should I sit in interviews to accentuate the bump? Do you have recommendations for fake belly support under designer gowns? How do you secure a silicone prosthetic so it doesn't move while walking? The nurse, stunned, thought she misheard. I thought this was about pregnancy, she whispered later. But it became clear, Meghan wasn't preparing to give birth. She was preparing to appear pregnant. Why now? Why speak out? Why is the nurse breaking her silence? Because things are escalating. Fast. With the recent immigration court inquiries into Harry's visa, legal filings are now demanding clarity on how Lilibet was born. If Meghan wasn't truly pregnant, if a surrogate was involved but unlisted, and if official documents list otherwise, This could trigger massive legal ramifications. And here's where it gets chilling. The nurse reveals that Meghan not only asked for help maintaining the illusion, but allegedly forbade anyone in the household, including staff, friends, and even certain family members, from touching her stomach. She recalls Meghan saying, "No one gets to touch my bump. Ever." That's not part of the plan. The plan. A word the nurse heard over and over again. The ticking time bomb of truth. You might be wondering, what's the big deal? Plenty of women use surrogates. Plenty of celebrities wear fake bumps for privacy. So what makes this different? Here's the answer. Royal succession. Titles. Constitutional law. Public funding. International media integrity. When you present yourself as carrying a royal baby, you invoke public protocols. When you mislead legal entities on birth status, you enter fraud territory. When a nation funds your lifestyle based on your public image, and that image is a construct, you've crossed from privacy into deception. And when someone finally cracks under the pressure and says, "I was there, and it was fake," that's no longer rumor. That's testimony. A nation watches, and so does the palace. While the press tries to downplay the implications, the palace is silent. But silence doesn't mean ignorance. Royal aides have long suspected inconsistencies in Meghan's timelines. Insiders say Charles was alarmed by the lack of medical documentation. William was reportedly furious when Meghan refused to include a royal physician at the delivery. And now, as Lilibet's legitimacy becomes part of legal debates over whether she and Archie can retain royal titles, the stakes couldn't be higher. Especially with this nurse, this calm, deeply experienced, emotionally shaken woman. Finally ready to share what she witnessed firsthand. Not just what Meghan said, but what she saw, what she held, and what she didn't. Why this story is exploding now. In recent months, YouTubers, journalists, and even former royal staffers have reignited the Bumpgate conversation. But it was just noise until now. The nurse's quiet confession to an independent legal observer in Santa Barbara has already made waves behind the scenes. Sources say multiple networks are bidding for exclusive interviews. Lawyers are mobilizing. Royal PR teams are working overtime to assess damage control options. And Meghan? She's gone dark. No interviews. No appearances. No baby content. The silence is deafening. So what did the nurse say? We'll get to her testimony soon enough. But first, you need to understand the layers of secrecy. The web of NDAs. The coded phrases staff used when referring to the baby. The nights when Meghan would cry in her room, not from hormonal swings, but from the stress of keeping the illusion alive. You need to hear about the first time the nurse saw the prosthetic, the brand, the type, the moment Meghan held it up in front of the mirror and said, "This will change everything." And most disturbingly, you'll need to hear about the day the nurse realized there was no birth plan, no hospital, no OBGYN, just a bump and a script. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. What kind of woman breaks a silence that could destroy a duchess? Not an opportunist. Not a fame chaser. No, this woman had everything to lose and nothing to gain. So why now? Why step into the fire, knowing full well what it could cost her? Because sometimes silence becomes unbearable. The whisperer in the shadows. For legal reasons, we can't name her. Not yet, but we'll call her Elena. Not her real name. Just a placeholder. A way to refer to a woman who's walked silently in the most powerful rooms of Hollywood, Monaco, and yes, Buckingham-adjacent spaces. She's not new to this world. She's not a nurse you'd find in your local delivery ward. Elena is a private maternity consultant, a rare breed of elite healthcare professional hired by celebrities, billionaires, and royalty. Her job? To manage pregnancy in complete silence. We're talking bespoke care, off-the-books prenatal plans, 24/7 emergency response, and no paper trail. Every contract she signs includes a battery of clauses, non-disclosures, non-competes, confidentiality commitments that make even the CIA blush. So again, we ask, why is she breaking? Why is she risking it all now? When a lie crosses a line, it wasn't just the bump. It was the choreography of the lie. Elena had worked with clients who embellished, who staged cutesy bump reveals for People magazine, or padded their waistlines before the first trimester. Vanity isn't a crime. But this was different. I wasn't asked to support a pregnancy, she told an independent third-party legal mediator in late 2024. I was asked to simulate one. Pause and let that sink in. Now ask yourself, if someone famous wants to fake being pregnant, but never publicly states, I'm giving birth myself, is it technically a lie? Or just a manipulation? That's the loophole Meghan's team allegedly exploited. They never explicitly said Meghan was carrying the baby. They let the visuals do the talking. Let the public assume. Let the press repeat. Let the photos speak louder than facts. But behind the scenes, Elena was given instructions she says made her feel physically sick. Don't call it a bump. Call it a prop. That was the first thing that alarmed her. According to Elena, when Meghan first reached out through a high-end Los Angeles concierge medical agency in early 2021, the tone was all business. There was no warmth, no excitement, just management. It was Meghan's assistant who made the call. The Duchess wouldn't speak directly until after contracts were signed. The conversation went like this. She's looking for someone discreet. Ultra discreet. There's a narrative to protect. We want your full cooperation. And she wants to use optical aids. Optical aids? Elena asked. A silicone prosthetic. A bump. She'll be wearing one. It's part of the plan. The plan. There it was again. Meghan's first meeting. I know what I'm doing. The first time Elena met Meghan face-to-face, it was in a candlelit living room in Montecito. Serena Williams was on a speakerphone in the background. Archie was allegedly asleep upstairs, though Elena says she never heard or saw a child the entire night. Meghan wore a beige cashmere wrap dress and no shoes. Her makeup was flawless. Her tone? Direct. Controlled. Calculated. I'm not here for advice, she told Elena within 5 minutes. I'm here for logistics. She presented a list. Not a birth plan. Not a feeding chart. But a shoot schedule. There were outfits to coordinate. Lighting instructions. Angles that best concealed bump straps. A particular brand of maternity girdle used in Spanish telenovelas. And most shockingly, a request for a travel-sized heating pad to keep the silicone warm during appearances. Elena was stunned. It was like I'd walked into a casting call for a role she'd already been playing. The shift, from nurse to production assistant. From that point on, Elena wasn't just a nurse. She was a handler. She wasn't taking vitals. She was adjusting camera blocking. She wasn't checking fetal movement. She was double-checking padding alignment. She remembers one particularly surreal moment before Meghan's virtual appearance at a UNICEF roundtable. The Duchess was sitting in a soft chair, fussing with her dress. The fake bump kept folding awkwardly under the silk fabric. Could you just fix it? Meghan said without looking up. Elena leaned down, adjusted the Velcro, tugged the fabric. That's when it hit her. This wasn't a pregnancy. This was a performance. The turning point, Meghan's breakdown in the nursery. Elena had begun to emotionally detach by that point. She followed instructions. She stopped asking questions. She focused on the paycheck and the NDA. Until one night, everything changed. It was 2:13 a.m. Meghan called in tears. I can't do this anymore. It's too much. The bump's not right. The angles are wrong. I'm not sleeping. People are suspicious. Elena rushed over. She found Meghan pacing, disheveled, mascara streaked down her cheek. I should have just used a surrogate and told the truth. But Harry said, he said we'd lose everything. The press, the public, the titles. It was the first time Meghan admitted, in Elena's presence, that there was no baby inside her. That Lilibet was being carried elsewhere, privately, discreetly, by someone no one would ever know. She'll be ours. She'll have my name. She'll have the titles. But no one needs to know where she came from. Elena stood frozen. She realized she wasn't helping a mother through a pregnancy. She was assisting in a royal deception. Why Elena stayed silent for so long? Fear, loyalty, confusion. Pick a reason. All of them apply. Elena didn't want to be the center of a media hurricane. She didn't want to be accused of betrayal. She certainly didn't want to be sued by the Archwell legal team, who had embedded legal tripwires into every document she signed. But something shifted after the birth. Specifically, when Meghan and Harry made the unprecedented decision to name their daughter Lilibet Diana, directly invoking the Queen's private nickname. It felt like a final insult. A crown placed on a child whose entire origin was shrouded in fabrication. Elena began to keep notes. Photos, screenshots, voice memos. Not to leak, but to protect herself. Because deep down, she knew. One day, this will blow up. And I need to be ready. The trigger, a call from London. In late 2024, Elena received an encrypted email routed through a foreign server. It was from a legal intermediary representing a private British client with constitutional interests. They didn't threaten. They didn't ask her to testify. They simply said, "We know what happened. When you're ready, talk." She sat with it for weeks. Waited against her mortgage, her license, her peace of mind. Then she did something unexpected. She opened a new email, typed 3 words. "Let's begin. Elena." And with that, the silence broke. But what came next would pull the rug from under the monarchy's most explosive secret yet. Can a single second of footage unravel an entire royal narrative? What if that second, captured mid-step, in the middle of a public engagement, exposed more than Meghan ever intended? Because sometimes, the lens doesn't lie. And in this case, the camera didn't just capture a moment. It caught the collapse of an illusion. The frame that froze the world. It was a crisp morning in Australia. October 2018. Meghan Markle, radiant in a sleek white dress, was on official tour with Prince Harry. They were all smiles, hands intertwined, stepping into a Sydney community centre when it happened. A child ran up. Meghan bent down. And the bump? It folded. Not shifted. Not sagged. Folded. Like fabric. Like rubber. Like something that wasn't flesh. The internet doesn't miss. Within hours, someone on Twitter posted a still. Just a freeze frame. Captioned simply, "What just happened to her bump?" The image showed Meghan crouching, except her midsection looked concave. Hollow. A sharp crease at the top of her dress where a rounded belly should have been smooth. At first, defenders flooded the comments. Bad angle. Cheap fabric. Internet trolls. But then came the video. A slow-motion replay surfaced on Reddit, just 6 seconds long. It showed Meghan's stomach collapsing inward as she bent down. A ripple in the fabric. A slippage. People began whispering. Fake bump? That whisper turned into a roar. Royal reporters go silent. You would think major tabloids would pounce on a story like this, right? Wrong. The Daily Mail ran a quick, defensive piece slamming conspiracy theorists. The Sun briefly mentioned the footage, then never followed up. Hello? Magazine avoided it altogether. It was almost as if someone had hit the brakes. Royal correspondents who once gleefully dissected Meghan's every outfit suddenly lost interest in one of the most visually suspicious wardrobe malfunctions in modern royal history. But online, a movement was forming. They called it Bumpgate, the rise of the bump truthers. TikTok detectives, YouTube exposés, Tumblr side-by-side comparisons. People began gathering clips from multiple engagements. Meghan's bump changing size within a 24-hour span. A tell-all interview with her hands folded above where the bump should be. A clip where the bump jiggled unnaturally as she walked in heels. One eagle-eyed viewer posted a breakdown of how silicone prosthetics behave under body pressure, comparing it to Meghan's appearances. Another shared diagrams of maternity prosthetics with Velcro straps, matching the telltale crease seen in her fitted gowns. It wasn't just one moment anymore. It was a pattern. But could it all be coincidence? Let's pause. Could this all be fashion mishaps? Tight fabric? Angle distortion? Let's be fair. Meghan was under immense scrutiny. Every gesture, every outfit, every public appearance filmed from 10 different angles. Maybe something just looked off. But here's where it gets suspicious. Multiple stylists noticed Meghan often wore non-maternity clothing, even in late-stage pregnancy. Most pregnant women can't bear a waistline past month 6. Meghan? She wore bodycon dresses with no stretch. Cinched coats. High heels. No waddling. No arching back. No hand on the spine. Elena, the nurse we met in Chapter 1, said it best. I've helped over 100 women through late-stage pregnancy. Meghan didn't move like any of them. The dress that gave everything away. Let's talk about the navy dress. December 2018. At the British Fashion Awards, Meghan stunned in a sleek, one-shoulder black gown. She cradled her bump repeatedly, beaming at the cameras. But several viewers noticed something peculiar in the live footage. When she turned sideways, the bump slid slightly under the fabric. Not contracted, not tightened, slid, like something unfastened. That clip resurfaced in early 2023 during a TikTok trend titled, "Things That Don't Add Up, Royal Edition." It amassed over 14 million views in 3 days. Then came the breakdowns. One YouTuber freeze-framed the moment, tracing the bump's shape. The outline wasn't round. It was lumpy, segmented, just like commercial prosthetics used in costume design. And then, it vanished from the algorithm. Videos were quietly demonetized. Some accounts reported shadow banning. A coincidence? Or control? Even her hands told a story. Body language experts started weighing in. Why did Meghan cradle her bump constantly? Why were her hands always placed above the bump, not below, where the baby's weight would sit? Why did she rarely appear out of breath, even when ascending stairs or walking long distances in heels? And here's a question for you, watching at home. Have you ever known a woman in her 3rd trimester who could squat down, pop back up, and still walk like she was on a runway? That's what made people stop laughing. Because if the bump was fake, what did that say about the birth? Photoshop games, spot the edits. Let's talk still images. One Reddit user ran a reverse image analysis on Meghan's pregnancy portraits. Their conclusion? Multiple signs of digital manipulation. Shadows inconsistent with belly shape. Smooth transition lines near the lower abdomen. Slight warping of background elements. Typical signs of image stretching. In one case, a maternity shoot published in Vogue allegedly featured a bump that looked identical to a stock prosthetic from a film prop site. The photo was later pulled and re-uploaded with color corrections. But the damage was done. At this point, even Meghan's diehard defenders had to admit something didn't feel right. The internal emails that leaked. Just when Bumpgate seemed to plateau, a leak hit the internet. A screenshot, supposedly from an ex-Archewell staffer, revealed a production note labeled Media Control, Maternity Appearances. The note allegedly included phrases like, ensure lighting masks lower fabric bunching. Use underbump filler to maintain round shape on long days. No prolonged physical contact with public near abdomen. While its authenticity couldn't be confirmed, the language matched Elena's testimony almost perfectly, especially the line that read, remember, it's all about continuity. Continuity. Like in a film, like in a script. Harry's role, innocent or accomplice. Where was Prince Harry in all of this? Blind? In love? Or part of the plan? Many suspect Harry either believed Meghan's surrogacy from the start and helped shield it, or deliberately avoided asking questions. According to one royal biographer, aides noticed that Harry would often position himself between Meghan and press photographers, almost like he was blocking certain angles. Coincidence? Or choreography? We may never know. But what we do know is this. The bump slipped. And in that moment, the world saw behind the curtain. But the real secret? It wasn't caught on camera. It was buried in the nursery. During one midnight phone call, when Meghan begged for help hiding a mistake no one could ever discover. And the nurse said yes. What does a lie look like when it finally begins to crumble? It doesn't happen in a flash of lightning or in front of a crowd. No. It begins in a quiet room at 2 o'clock in the morning with a phone call. And on that night inside Frogmore Cottage, Meghan Markle wasn't wearing makeup. She wasn't wearing a crown. She was wearing panic. The call that changed everything. Elena had just gone to sleep. Her phone was on silent. She never expected it to ring, especially not from that line. But it did. Meghan's voice was tight, whispery, frantic. Please come. Right now? I messed up. You need to come. Now. No explanation. Just raw urgency. Elena threw on her jacket, grabbed her emergency bag, and sped through the Windsor back roads toward Frogmore Cottage. She was used to medical emergencies, but this didn't feel medical. This felt like collapse. The scene inside Frogmore. When she arrived, the house was strangely quiet. No lights in the front. No guards at the gate. It was as if the world had paused. The housekeeper let her in and silently pointed toward the upstairs landing. Elena followed the faint sound of footsteps, slow, uneven, pacing. Then she saw her. Meghan, barefoot, hair in a messy bun, pacing in a long silk robe. And the bump? It was sitting on the nightstand, like a piece of costume jewelry. Detached. Exposed. I can't do this anymore. Meghan didn't greet her. She didn't smile. Didn't pretend. She simply stood by the window and said, it moved again. During the event. I felt it shift. The camera caught it. I know they saw. I know people are talking. Elena approached carefully. She could see the panic in Meghan's eyes. Wide, hollow, rimmed with red. The straps didn't hold. I think the tape is too old. I told them I needed a new one weeks ago, but they don't listen. She wasn't speaking like a mother. She was speaking like a performer, an actress whose prop had failed, cracking under the weight of the act. Meghan suddenly turned and collapsed onto the edge of the bed, her head in her hands. Everyone's watching me, waiting for me to fail. I can't keep this up. It's too much. Elena sat beside her, silent. She wanted to comfort her. But how do you comfort someone whose entire identity is wrapped in a deception? Someone who has pulled you into a lie. Then Meghan said something Elena would never forget. Sometimes I wish I'd just used a real bump. A smaller one. Then I wouldn't have to fake the weight, the breathing, the arch in my back. She wasn't just faking the pregnancy. She was faking the experience. Every motion. Every mannerism. Every symptom choreographed. Lilibet is real. But she's not here. Elena gathered her courage. Meg, I need to ask. Is the baby, is she okay? Meghan nodded, but avoided eye contact. Yes. She's healthy. She's in Colorado. The surrogate is someone Harry's cousin recommended. Very discreet. Very clean. Clean. Elena asked. You know? Lifestyle. Image. She's a yoga instructor. No social media. No interest in money. Then Meghan's voice cracked. I'll fly her in for the birth. A private clinic. Maybe LA. Maybe Portland. Somewhere off-grid. She'll sign the papers. We'll file the birth certificate under me. Then it's done. The weight of a royal lie. Elena felt a chill. This wasn't a simple celebrity surrogacy. This was a constitutional scandal in the making. Because if the public believed Meghan had carried Lilibet, if the monarchy acknowledged that child as being of the body of a duchess, then that child might be entitled to titles, succession, security, financial support, all based on a falsehood. Elena wanted to walk away, to quit, to never look back. But Meghan was trembling. And then she asked the question that turned everything. Can you help me make it more believable? The toolkit of deception. That night, Elena did something she never thought she'd do. She became an accomplice. They opened her medical bag, not for bandages or fetal monitors, but to reinforce the bump. Double-sided skin adhesive. Thermal gel packs to give it body heat. Compression wraps to smooth the outline. And then Meghan stood in front of the mirror. She adjusted the robe, smoothed her hair, reapplied mascara, and posed, as if nothing had ever happened. Elena felt nauseous, because in that moment, Meghan wasn't a mother-to-be. She was a character in a play. Where was Harry? During this emotional breakdown, one figure was conspicuously absent. Harry. He wasn't in the house. According to Meghan, he had flown to Scotland for a quick meeting, though no such event appeared on the public royal calendar. Elena asked, Does he know everything? Meghan looked away. He knows enough. That's when she pulled out a stack of envelopes, each labeled with dates. He wants everything documented. If there's ever a challenge. Photos. Journal entries. We create a paper trail. That's what the lawyers said. The photo shoot, that never happened. Meghan also mentioned a canceled maternity shoot. We were supposed to do a black and white series. On the beach. Archie by my side. Harry behind me. But the prosthetic wasn't camera ready. And the photographer, someone from Vogue, was too curious. She asked how far along I was. What hospital we'd chosen. She said my shape didn't match the month. I couldn't risk it. That's when Elena realized how tightly controlled the narrative was. Every photo had a purpose. Every appearance was staged. Every word had legal implications. The morning after, by sunrise, Meghan was composed. Back in silk pajamas. Cup of herbal tea. A script for her next video interview with Archwell's team sitting on the nightstand. Elena stood at the door, hesitating. Are you sure this is what you want? Meghan didn't blink. It's what the world needs to believe. And just like that, the door closed. Elena stepped outside, into the cold Windsor air, wondering how much longer the performance could last. Because behind that door, in the quiet stillness of Frogmore Cottage, the lie had spoken, and it was only a matter of time before someone else heard it. What happens when you try to trace the birth of a royal child, and the trail leads nowhere? No hospital, no staff, no logs, no records, just a date, a name, and a public relations statement so vague, it might as well have been fiction. Because if you were to go looking for evidence of Meghan Markle delivering Lilibet Diana in California, you'd find a ghost story. The announcement that raised eyebrows. June 6, 2021. News outlets lit up with headlines. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry welcome baby girl. Lilibet Diana Mountbatten-Windsor born in Santa Barbara. The birth announcement was polished, PR approved, and echoed worldwide. But what it didn't include: the time of birth, the attending physician, the exact hospital, any quotes from medical staff, a post-birth photo. Compare this to Archie's birth in 2019, where the palace, however reluctant, still issued a formal statement and registered the birth with St. Mary's Hospital in London. With Lilibet, there was only a line that said, "Delivered on Friday, June 4th, at 11:40 a.m. at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital." And that was it. But here's the twist. When independent journalists attempted to verify that birth with the hospital, they got stonewalled. "We have no comment on that name." Two separate British tabloids quietly dispatched reporters to contact Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital within a week of the announcement. One called under the guise of verifying a congratulatory press release. The other pretended to be a former maternity nurse trying to send flowers to the delivery team. Both received nearly identical responses. "We have no comment on that name. We cannot confirm any patient information. That's not something we're authorized to discuss." Now sure, privacy laws in the United States protect patient information. HIPAA is strict, but hospitals do publicly confirm high-profile births with permission, especially if the family is willing. But there was no footage of Harry leaving the hospital, no interviews with doctors, no public donation from the Sussexes to the maternity ward. It was as if Lilibet had been born in a vacuum. Security footage, or lack thereof. One local photographer, who requested anonymity, told a journalist, "We staked out the hospital for 2 full days. Nothing. No VIP security. No black SUVs. No media vans. Not even an uptick in staff." This was June 2021. California was just coming out of pandemic restrictions, but a royal birth still would have triggered buzz. Even rumors of Meghan being inside would have sent paparazzi sprinting. But it was dead quiet. No noise. No movement. No royal anything. The anonymous staff tip-off. Later that month, an anonymous message was sent to an independent U.S. gossip blog. It came from a former employee of Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital. The post read, "No one in our maternity ward saw them. Not before, not during, not after." It was as if the entire event was fabricated. Or maybe it happened somewhere else entirely. The blog didn't publish it right away. It sounded too wild. But they archived it. And when they revisited it months later, after more holes appeared in the story, it started to look a lot more credible. Lilibet's birth certificate, more questions than answers. A few weeks later, the state of California released Lilibet Diana's birth certificate. The headlines rushed to show it proved the baby existed. But a close look revealed Meghan's name was listed as Rachel Meghan Markle, correct at the time. Prince Harry was listed under the Duke of Sussex instead of his legal name. The attendant at birth field? A vague entry. No known obstetrician or nurse. And again, no hospital signature. Just an official stamp from the registrar's office. You'd think this would be the end of it. Proof enough, right? Until one curious lawyer noticed something. The registered address was Archwell. On the certificate, the Sussexes listed their official address. But instead of a residential property or hospital room, the documents indicated a corporate property, believed to be the same address registered to Archwell, their foundation. This raised a storm of legal questions. Could you list a corporate office as the site of legal correspondence for a child's birth? Was this a clerical error? Or another move in a broader concealment strategy? Even more suspicious, when investigative reporters contacted local government offices requesting clarification, they were told the file had been sealed. The nurse's suspicion solidifies. Back to Elena, the private nurse who had been asked to help simulate the pregnancy. After Lilibet's birth, she expected some form of debrief. A thank you note. A transition. Instead, I got a wire transfer for final services. No note. No baby photos. No staff introductions. It was like I had never existed. Even the baby's arrival at home, if it happened at all, was never shared with her. There was no invitation to help with postpartum care. No lactation consultant was ever called in. Meghan reportedly told another staffer, "We're handling it privately this time. No outsiders." That statement alone may not sound suspicious, until you realize Meghan had invited 6 postpartum specialists for Archie. Why none for Lilibet? Where was the media? A royal birth, especially one involving a couple as media-savvy as Meghan and Harry, usually triggers coverage. Even if they prefer privacy, PR teams tend to soften the silence with humanizing moments. But with Lilibet, no hospital window photo, no drive home, no baby blanket, just a statement released through Archewell's website. No news conference, no family portraits for weeks. And when a photo did emerge, months later, it looked like it was taken on a soundstage. No visible background, no hospital lighting, no medical equipment, just a perfectly polished scene, as if the baby had appeared, the clinic that might hold the key. In early 2023, royal investigators uncovered a possible lead. A small private women's health clinic in the Pacific Northwest reported a VIP overnight delivery in early June 2021. They refused to release names. But a local journalist noted, all windows were blacked out for 3 days. Staff phones were confiscated. A fleet of black vans were spotted coming and going at 3 a.m. The timing? June 4th, the date of Lilibet's supposed birth. Coincidence? Or correction? Because if Meghan never delivered at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital, and if the baby never entered through a royal gate, then where, exactly, was Lilibet Diana born? And more importantly, who signed her into this world? He was born into a family where secrets live in the walls, where pain is polished, where scandals are filed in silence. So when Meghan's baby bump shifted on camera, when questions started swirling, when hospital records couldn't be found, was Prince Harry just as shocked as the rest of the world? Or had he known all along? The prince who vanished from the room. Let's rewind to that night inside Frogmore Cottage. The night Meghan broke down, when Elena, the private nurse, found the bump on the nightstand and the Duchess shaking with fear. One thing was missing. Harry. He wasn't there. No one knew where he was. Meghan said he was in Scotland, but no royal schedule supported that. In fact, a senior royal aide later revealed that Harry's calendar had been intentionally cleared for that week. So where was he really? And why wasn't he there when his wife, pregnant or not, was spiraling? He knows enough. That's what Meghan said to Elena. He knows enough. A phrase so deliberately vague it raises more questions than it answers. Did he know she wasn't actually pregnant? Did he know there was a surrogate? Or did he simply choose not to ask? Because let's be honest, Harry had watched his mother die in a car crash chased by paparazzi. He grew up being paraded, prodded, ridiculed, and manipulated by a brutal press machine. When Meghan told him she wanted complete privacy for her second child, what else could he say but yes? Maybe he didn't want the truth. Maybe he just wanted peace. The palace suspicions. According to multiple insiders, Prince Charles and Prince William began to grow suspicious during Meghan's first trimester. A royal security officer recalled a heated discussion in late 2020. William asked why Meghan refused to be seen by the palace's trusted OBGYN. Harry said they wanted their own path. And Charles? He reportedly questioned the legitimacy of Meghan's due date. How is she so far along already? He allegedly whispered after a Zoom call in which Meghan's bump appeared unusually prominent for the timeline. When Harry was confronted, his answers were vague. She's showing early. It's just her body type. Let's respect her wishes. But were those excuses? Or lies? Harry's Hollywood shift. Something changed in Harry after the couple moved to California. Friends from Eton and the British military said he began adopting Meghan's speech patterns. Media phrases like optics, narrative control, and image curation. One close friend said, he was no longer the Harry we knew. He was speaking like a producer. In fact, a leaked Archewell memo listed Harry as executive liaison to media strategy. He wasn't just approving Meghan's bump photos. He was managing them. Which begs the question, if he was involved in the presentation, was he also complicit in the deception? The documentary that almost exposed everything. In 2022, Netflix filmed Harry and Meghan, the highly anticipated docuseries. Footage of Meghan's pregnancy with Lilibet was minimal, just a few vague stills. No ultrasound videos. No belly rubs. No hospital footage. Producers reportedly asked for more behind-the-scenes pregnancy clips. Harry declined. We want to protect that moment, he said. One producer, speaking anonymously, later told a friend. The bump footage didn't pass the authenticity test. It looked staged. It was cut. Another opportunity to show the truth gone. The moment the bump slipped in front of Harry. But here's where things get murky. During a public engagement in early 2021, Meghan wore a long floral dress while stepping into a car beside Harry. The bump shifted slightly, visible only to someone sitting next to her. Harry, of course, was that person. Footage shows him looking down, then quickly looking away. His expression? Tense, guarded, complicated. A body language expert later analyzed the clip and said he was emotionally retreating, not surprised, not amused, but disturbed. Did he ever ask Meghan the hard question? Did Harry ever look Meghan in the eye and ask, "Is this bump real?" According to Elena, the nurse, no, he never did. He asked how she was feeling. He asked if she needed anything. But he never once acknowledged the elephant in the room. He played along. But Elena also described a moment of vulnerability. One night, she found Harry alone in the kitchen, staring at his phone. He looked up, eyes tired, and said, "All I want is for them to leave her alone. If that means keeping secrets, then fine." That line stuck with her. Because it wasn't about truth. It was about protection. The line between love and loyalty. So was Harry naive? Or was he playing a part in a narrative they'd both constructed? Psychologists call it shared delusion. When two people become so intertwined in a story they create, they begin to believe it's real. Harry, haunted by his past, desperate to keep his family intact, may have convinced himself that Meghan's plan was just strategy, not deceit, not fraud, just control. But control comes at a cost. The hidden letters. In early 2023, a series of leaked letters allegedly written by Harry to a U.S. immigration official were uncovered. In them, he mentioned the birth of my daughter as a milestone event. But one letter used a curious phrase. The day we brought her home. Not the day she was born. Not the day we welcomed her. But brought her home. As if Lilibet arrived from elsewhere. Some dismissed it as semantics. Others saw it as a slip. A prince torn between two worlds. Today, Harry remains silent on the matter. No interviews. No clarifications. No denials. But friends say he's more isolated than ever. He rarely speaks to William. Charles keeps communication minimal. His own staff has shrunk significantly in the last year. Insiders say he's exhausted, numb, and deeply protective of Meghan, no matter what it costs him. But the cracks are showing. Because there's one question even he can't answer. If Meghan wasn't truly pregnant, then where does that leave Lilibet? And the monarchy? And as pressure builds, Harry may soon have to choose. Protect the truth, or protect the lie. When scandal knocks on the palace door, there are usually two options. Investigate or ignore. So why, when whispers of a fake pregnancy surrounded Meghan Markle, did Buckingham Palace do the one thing it does best? Nothing. No inquiry. No press release. No statement. Just silence. But as we've learned throughout royal history, silence isn't innocence. It's strategy. The palace playbook. Deny, delay, disappear. Ask anyone familiar with royal damage control, and they'll tell you. This institution has survival down to an art. It doesn't react with emotion. It reacts with precedent. Whether it's the abdication crisis of 1936, Diana's tell-all interview, or Prince Andrew's catastrophic BBC appearance, Buckingham Palace has one overriding instinct. Contain. Not resolve. Not expose. Just contain. So when rumors began swirling about Meghan's questionable bump, the palace applied the same age-old formula. Don't feed the story. Don't confirm anything. Let it die. Except it didn't. The first warning signs. According to one former royal aide, the first official concern came in late 2018 during Meghan's Australia tour. Staff in the press office noticed something odd. Reporters were submitting questions about Meghan's fluctuating belly size. The aide recalls, it started as whispers, jokes among the press pool, but then it turned into genuine confusion. They'd say, she looked 6 months pregnant yesterday and 3 months today. Aides brought this to the attention of the Queen's private secretary. The response? Leave it alone. She's emotional. It's a sensitive time. William's alleged confrontation. In early 2019, Prince William allegedly confronted Harry behind closed doors. According to a high-level palace source, William asked Harry directly, "What is going on with the baby? The dates, the appearances, it's not adding up." Harry's response? Back off. She's under pressure. Let her breathe. Tensions soared. Insiders say this marked the true beginning of the rift between the brothers. Not the Oprah interview, not Megxit, but this very moment. Because William suspected a cover-up, and Harry wasn't budging. The royal medical team, frozen out. Traditionally, royal births are overseen, at minimum, by palace-approved doctors. Even Diana, under immense pressure, had trusted royal physicians to document her deliveries. But Meghan? She declined all offers of royal medical support. A staffer leaked. She said she wanted an all-female, American-based birthing team. No British doctors. No palace oversight. This was highly irregular and troubling. Dr. Alan Farthing, the Queen's surgeon gynecologist, reportedly requested a courtesy meeting with Meghan. He was ignored. It's a first, one courtier said. Even Fergie had her deliveries cleared through royal protocol. Meghan was the only one to shut it all down completely. The communications blackout. By mid-2019, palace PR officers were reportedly told, do not respond to bump-related questions. This included inquiries from reputable UK press, international requests for clarification, fan letters demanding answers. Even the Royal Rota, the accredited pool of journalists who cover the monarchy, was stonewalled. One veteran royal correspondent told ITV, I've covered 3 royal pregnancies. This was the only one where no one would even whisper a detail off the record. It was like the topic didn't exist. Queen Elizabeth's dilemma. Sources say Her Majesty was troubled by the inconsistencies. She reportedly asked her private secretary for a timeline of Meghan's engagements and bump photos to understand the discrepancies herself. But even she hit a wall. Palace insiders were too nervous to press the issue. Why? Because by this point, everything was a powder keg. Meghan and Harry had already hinted at racism within the institution. They were negotiating their exit. They were threatening interviews. And worst of all, they were documenting everything. The Megxit timing, strategic or coincidental. January 2020. Just months before Lilibet's alleged conception, Harry and Meghan announced they were stepping back from royal duties. Officially, they said it was to protect their mental health. But what if it was more than that? Some royal analysts now believe Megxit was partly designed to avoid official scrutiny of Meghan's second pregnancy, distance the couple from royal birth protocol, escape the reach of UK medical authorities. Because once they were in California, the palace lost all jurisdiction. And with no titles yet revoked, Meghan could still present herself as the Duchess of Sussex, carrying a child of royal blood. Behind closed doors, palace panic. In mid-2021, as Lilibet's birth was announced, internal palace emails reportedly flew like wildfire. One source who claimed to have seen them said, there were urgent questions about hospital confirmations, security logs, and birth notices. No one could find anything. Some aides suggested launching a quiet investigation, a background check, a request for California medical verification. The Queen allegedly said, we must trust our family. Anything else invites disgrace. But not everyone agreed. A private memo was circulated between senior courtiers titled, Line of Succession. Contingency Scenarios. Its purpose? To outline what would happen if Lilibet's legitimacy was ever challenged. Why the palace stayed silent. Let's be blunt. The monarchy is an institution built on perception. If the world begins to question the legitimacy of royal children, if titles are perceived as political or fraudulent, the entire system begins to wobble. And Meghan knew this. According to a former royal staffer, she weaponized the palace's silence. She knew they wouldn't risk going public. That's why she pushed boundaries no one else ever dared to. So the palace did what it always does when scandal threatens to spill. Nothing. But sometimes, silence isn't just strategy. It's complicity. The one aide who refused to stay quiet. There's one exception. A mid-level aide who worked in communications between Kensington Palace and Clarence House. This person, known only by the alias Red Quill, kept notes. Detailed ones. Emails. Timelines. Archive footage. Internal memos regarding bump appearances and conflicting birth details. They haven't gone public yet, but sources say they've spoken to multiple foreign reporters and are considering testifying if any legal inquiry is launched into the royal succession protocol. Because as one note read, if she lied about the birth and we said nothing, then history will judge us as co-conspirators. and as more whistleblowers consider stepping forward. The palace's silence may no longer protect it, because the truth, it has a habit of clawing its way out, even from behind gilded gates. You've seen it before. One day, a celebrity vanishes from the spotlight. No paparazzi, no red carpets, no pregnancy photos. The next, they're cradling a newborn baby on the cover of People magazine. And everyone smiles, nods, and moves on. But what if behind those smiles lies a carefully rehearsed, highly choreographed script? Welcome to the Hollywood Baby Playbook, where surrogacy isn't just a medical decision, it's a branding strategy. And for Meghan Markle, it was the ultimate role, the celebrity surrogacy trend. In the last 2 decades, the number of celebrities turning to surrogacy has skyrocketed. Some go public, like Kim Kardashian, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Nicole Kidman. Others, not so much. Beyoncé's twin pregnancy sparked rumors of body doubles and prosthetics. Janet Jackson's late-in-life birth at 50 raised eyebrows. And most relevant to our story, multiple sources close to the entertainment industry claim certain pregnant stars never carried their children at all. But they had one thing in common: control. Control of timing. Control of publicity. Control of the narrative. And Meghan, with her Hollywood roots and image-conscious persona, knew the rules better than most. Make it look real, the industry whisper. According to Elena, our private nurse turned whistleblower, Meghan once said during a late-night conversation, "I know actresses who pulled this off. I'm not the first. I'm just the most watched." She wasn't wrong. In Hollywood, the use of fake baby bumps and surrogates behind the scenes isn't taboo. It's an unspoken industry tool. Agents, stylists, and PR teams often arrange for NDAs with surrogate mothers while the client maintains the appearance of pregnancy for public consumption. The reasons vary: privacy, career optics, personal trauma, image protection, but the result is the same: illusion, and the public rarely questions it. Until now. The bump rental business. Yes, you read that correctly. There's a thriving niche business in Los Angeles that rents fake baby bumps. They're used in film productions, public appearances, personal branding, and not just for actors portraying characters. Some clients request them to test out visibility during public engagements. One industry insider, a wardrobe stylist who worked with an A-list actress in the early 2010s, said she wanted the bump to look a little different each week, like a real pregnancy. So we adjusted size, shape, and movement based on her outfit and the event. Sound familiar? According to Elena, Meghan had 3 different bump models. Stage 1, light padding, perfect for fitted dresses. Stage 2, weighted silicone version with a heating pouch insert. Stage 3, full-bodied prosthetic with internal gel packs for a natural jiggle. All shipped in from a discreet studio in Burbank, used by makeup artists on primetime TV dramas. The surrogate selection process. If Meghan did use a surrogate, how would that process have looked? According to surrogacy legal consultants in California, Meghan and Harry would have signed a gestational carrier agreement with a U.S. surrogate. The contract would have included NDAs, medical procedures, and compensation, often exceeding $100,000. The baby would be biologically theirs, via IVF, or donor-assisted. Once born, Meghan's name could be placed on the birth certificate without disclosing the surrogate, under California's flexible family laws. And because the couple were no longer senior working royals, the palace had no legal oversight. It was the perfect setup. Private, controlled, untraceable. The Meghan twist. They'll never know. One Archwell staffer who later resigned reportedly told a friend. Meghan used to say, "They'll never know. I've already won." She allegedly treated the pregnancy as a campaign, a visual operation. Instagram-worthy outfits, stylized maternity poses, carefully released bump silhouettes. But when asked by photographers for spontaneous shots, she often declined. When fans reached out asking for due dates or baby preparation updates, silence. Because this wasn't a journey of motherhood. It was an exercise in image control. The Netflix precedent. Let's rewind. Netflix, one of Harry and Meghan's biggest paymasters, has a long history of playing along with image games. When Meghan's docuseries was produced, producers noticed something odd. No raw footage of Lilibet's birth. No hospital shots. Not even a hallway. All baby scenes were highly stylized. A high-level Netflix editor confided. It felt off. We weren't documenting a birth. We were documenting a fantasy. The Meghan-Beyoncé parallel. In 2011, Beyoncé was accused of wearing a fake baby bump during an interview on Australian TV. A viral video showed her stomach seemingly collapsing inward as she sat down. Her team denied everything. Sound familiar? When Meghan's bump appeared to shift or fold, the official response was the same: optical illusion. But both women had something else in common: heavy control of their image, reluctance to discuss birth plans, use of stylists trained in fabric draping for bumps, and both ignited global curiosity. Surrogacy as a secret weapon. To be clear, surrogacy isn't a scandal. It's a beautiful, often life-saving option for couples who struggle with fertility. But when it's hidden, for the sake of manipulating public emotion, leveraging titles, or controlling constitutional narratives, that's when it becomes explosive, especially when a woman, known globally as the Duchess of Sussex, tells a nurse, "She'll be ours. No one needs to know how she got here." Because then it's not about motherhood. It's about legacy, the royal difference. In Hollywood, pretending you're pregnant might be an open secret. But in the British royal family, it's a constitutional nightmare. Royal children are entitled to lines of succession, funded through public grants, protected under royal security. If a royal woman presents herself as the biological mother of a child born via undisclosed surrogacy, and that child receives titles or privileges based on that claim, it enters fraud territory, especially if legal documents were signed under misleading pretenses. When the act becomes a crime, legal experts now speculate that if Meghan signed visa applications, medical documentation, title declarations for her children, while falsely claiming to be the biological or birthing mother of Lilibet, she could face serious legal challenges. Even Harry could be implicated, especially if he knowingly participated. But until someone blows the whistle, the illusion continues. And as we've seen in Hollywood, every illusion is temporary. Eventually, the truth shows up, usually wearing no makeup, holding receipts, and ready to speak. Can a single second of footage unravel an entire royal narrative? What if that second, captured mid-step, in the middle of a public engagement, exposed more than Meghan ever intended? Because sometimes, the lens doesn't lie. And in this case, the camera didn't just capture a moment. It caught the collapse of an illusion, the frame that froze the world. It was a crisp morning in Australia, October 2018. Meghan Markle, radiant in a sleek white dress, was on official tour with Prince Harry. They were all smiles, hands intertwined, stepping into a Sydney community centre when it happened. A child ran up. Meghan bent down. And the bump? It folded. Not shifted. Not sagged. Folded. Like fabric. Like rubber. Like something that wasn't flesh. The internet doesn't miss. Within hours, someone on Twitter posted a still. Just a freeze frame. Captioned simply, "What just happened to her bump?" The image showed Meghan crouching, except her midsection looked concave, hollow. A sharp crease at the top of her dress where a rounded belly should have been smooth. At first, defenders flooded the comments. Bad angle. Cheap fabric. Internet trolls. But then came the video. A slow-motion replay surfaced on Reddit, just 6 seconds long. It showed Meghan's stomach collapsing inward as she bent down. A ripple in the fabric. A slippage. People began whispering, "Fake bump?" That whisper turned into a roar. Royal reporters go silent. You would think major tabloids would pounce on a story like this, right? Wrong. The Daily Mail ran a quick, defensive piece slamming conspiracy theorists. The Sun briefly mentioned the footage,